Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast. From still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me, parts unknown, Rocky Top Insider Zone, Ryan Schumpert. Ryan, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I like the parts unknown. Even though I think we've disclosed where I live on the podcast before. Let's keep it. We can keep it a little open for this one.
No, you're the mysterious Ryan Schumpert. No one ever knows. Outside of if you go to Lytton somewhat often, you're gonna see the Schumpert family, the kings, the royalty of Fountain City, Tennessee. The Schumperts over there.
Yeah, before I say this, I have to say that I'm joking. Well, I'm not joking because this is accurate, but I'm being sarcastic. I'm not being as arrogant as I come off. You probably won't see us. We're back in kind of the back area down the right side. You know, most of the main seating is to the left. But sometimes we come up and we're in the booth down the right side. Or if you go to the bathroom on the right side, you might see us.
The Schumpert family's never got any chalk on their hands from any trips to Lytton's. They don't have to put their name on the board. They're escorted back. That's a deep cut for the Lytton stands.
The only time I've gotten chalk on my hands is when I went with my good friend here, Chase Thomas, and he completely forgot we were going, or maybe just missed the time.
Was that on me or was that on you? I don't remember that one.
No, that was 1,000% on you.
What? You're throwing it on me?
We were going at 6, and it was 6. I'd walked in, did the chalk, waited a couple minutes, and it was 6:20, and I was or 6:15 when I got set, and it's by the way, got the table to the right. 5 minutes later, and you're I was cleaning, completely lost track.
I completely forgot about this. See, folks, this is what happens when you're productive around the house. You're just cleaning. I was out just in a mode where if you're I'm a person I put my head down. I'm not a multitasker, so I'm just doing something, and I'm just once I get that, then I'm I'm gonna go meet Ryan. I had no concept of time that day where I freaked out, and I ran over there, and I was I smelled that was all on me. I'd forgotten I did that. Yes, that was tough because it was that was on me. I will take full blame for that one because that was one of those all-time terrible texts where you're oh my god,
yeah,
what have I done? This isn't good. But yeah, no, I remember that was a while ago, but goodness gracious. Never a dull moment in the Lytton's Chase Thomas podcast history here.
Yeah, not that big a deal. I got caught up on some articles I probably had, saved on Twitter that I hadn't gotten around to reading yet, so it wasn't a big deal.
There you go. All right, sir. Well, there was a big game on Saturday in Knoxville, Tennessee. The Tennessee Volunteers beat the let me see here, Alabama Crimson Tide. The Alabama Crimson Tide on Saturday night for the second time in Heupel's tenure, both times coming at home for the Vols. But weirdly enough, it kind of felt like last year's game just flipped in a way, where Alabama had a lot of chances in the first half this time, and to kind of really put Tennessee up against the 8 ball, and they just did not do that. And Tennessee goes in the half only down 7-0, considering everything that happened in that first half. Just look at the drive chart and everything that went wrong for Tennessee. I think, what was it, 3 turnovers and 2 missed field goals total for Tennessee in the first half, and to still only be down 7-0 with getting the ball back, similar to last year with Alabama getting the ball back down 2 score. I think it was 2 scores, right? They were 2 scores down.
Points, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It just kind of reminded me a little bit of last year's game, just flipped in Tennessee's favor. But now that we've had 48 hours removed from it, Ryan Schumpert, the most important development for Tennessee in this game coming out of it to you right now is what?
I think the most important development, coming out of it comes to this team is that Nico made some throws and the passing offense made some plays in the second half. And just offense as a whole finish drives and put things together. And goodness knows they could have had 24, 28 points in the first half. We talked about or all week, everybody talked about weakness versus weakness, Tennessee's offense versus Alabama's defense. Alabama held Tennessee scoreless in the first half, and I don't think anyone, even Alabama related, left that going, oh wow, the defense has just played great. They're so much, we feel so much better about them. And Tennessee just finally put some stuff together. So I think that's, you got to see more of it. But the hope, I guess, for Tennessee is that continues and the offense starts clicking. I think more than anything, and I thought Josh Pate on his show made a good point about this last night of it's kind of the beauty of rivalry games in college sports, college football, especially with the regular season, having so few games that it's like you get into these games and it's tight and Tennessee's playing bad and Alabama's playing bad and you lose all of the what does this mean for everybody else? What does this mean for the team the rest of the year? And it just becomes a just win. Like that's all that matters. No matter what else happens, if you beat Alabama, Tennessee's got to win over Alabama this season. Whatever else this goes the rest of the way, they make the playoff or not. And I think from that aspect, the fact that now Josh Heupel's got 4 wins combined over Florida and Alabama. Tennessee, before he got in there, had 1 win since 2006 against those 2 teams. And then also just the significance of that and it being Kalen DeBoer's first year. And that Alabama had obviously dominated that rivalry when Nick Saban was its head coach. And it felt like there was a real opportunity here with Tennessee in playing at home in DeBoer's first year with a good team to make a statement of, all right, 22 wasn't a fluke. We won. We finally got 1 win over Saban, but 22 wasn't a fluke. Our program's here. We're on even footing in this rivalry now going forward, and things are different now. And I think Tennessee did just that.
I mean, it feels like they could have won 3 straight here in this series easily. Because last year, like we've talked about, if one of those red zone trips is a touchdown, I think Tennessee wins that game last year in the first half. If one of those, I think, if they're up 3 scores going into the half, I don't think Alabama's feeling the same coming out in the second one. But we'll never know. But, I mean, Tennessee's also just played Alabama really well all 4 times in the Heupel era. Even when they were significantly undermanned in 2021, they scored at will for 3.5 quarters in that game. And obviously the defense it was a long time ago in that one. But I don't know if you feel the same, but I kind of wrote about this today. My 48 hours column was that, and then on the newsletter, the Sports Renaissance Madness newsletter, I was going through the linebacker numbers because something I thought coming into the game, there was the talking point, and I don't know if we talked about it last week, was Keenan Peely's absence, where this was going to be the first game, like Jalen Milroe escaping and what he would do in space, similar to what he did against Georgia a few weeks back, and that obviously did not happen. Tennessee allowed 2.2 yards per carry against Alabama in this game, 30-something carries for 70-something yards. I don't have it in front of me, but Alabama was not able to run the ball on Tennessee once again. And one of the things I'd circled was just Keenan Peely, I think 2 years ago, or even 3 years, certainly 3 years, but definitely 2 as well. That kind of loss would have been devastating for this defense. But where Tennessee is now in their program 4 years in, with Brian John Marie and how much he's rotated, especially last year with T-Lander getting so many snaps as a true freshman and so many snaps this year with William Inge, Jalen Smith was getting some snaps, Caleb Perry getting some snaps, Edward Spillman before he got injured was getting some snaps. Like they've continued to rotate and have guys stay ready, whether it's on the defensive line, at safety now, with 4 guys playing pretty even, rotating at linebacker, like I said, that I thought they were going to be able to withstand the Peely injury a lot more than they would have in years past. And I was really curious to see how that played out because I think the linebackers had to play well in this game with Milroe and company. And I thought they did. I think Caleb Perry had a really good game. I wrote about what's interesting is Jalen Smith, he has, I forgot which stat on PFF, he actually grades out the best at the main 4. Maybe tackling, I want to say. Jalen Smith's their best tackling grade in his 100 and something snaps for Tennessee this season. And you look at it, Caleb Perry was solid, backing up T-Lander. T-Lander was great in run defense, and that's kind of his thing. He's kind of an old school linebacker where it just feels like he's a linebacker out of 2003, 1997 Miami Dolphin linebacker, Jeremiah T-Lander. But he's solid. And then obviously Arian Carter continues to grow, and he's the star of that room. But maybe you'll get Edwin Spillman back in 2 weeks against Kentucky. But I just looked at it and I'm like, they're just deep, and you just didn't really notice. They were fine. And William Inch, there's a lot of credit for keeping this thing humming post Peely, but I thought that was a positive development because that could have been devastating a couple of years ago for Tennessee because of how good Peely was for Tennessee at the first part of this year. But I think this was a game where it was kind of like an under the radar thing that their program and this defense is really, really deep. I think just about everywhere outside at corner right now, Ryan Schumpert.
Yeah. But I didn't really think, I did not think Aaron Carter played a good game, and I didn't think Thielander played great either. So having some depth, I mean, it was different in that sense. Having some depth certainly, helped because Caleb Perry did play a good game and Jalen Smith was solid. I think probably both of them, and granted less snaps, were better than Aaron Carter, definitely, and maybe Thielander too in this game. But, I mean, you just see maybe the multifaceted aspect of Tennessee's defense. The defensive line continues to be good in the run game, made a lot of plays. And then the safeties were good in the run game. Will Brooks was really good in the run in this game. Jacoby Thomas continues to be extremely good in the run in this game. And heck, Andre Turrentine made a big tackle on Alabama's first drive of the second half. They're moving it well on the ground. I think it was 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. And it was a design quarterback run for Milrow, and he came up and, made a tackle half a yard short of sticks at midfield. And in a lot of games, Alabama probably goes for it there. But at that point, 7-0, and they punt and pin Tennessee at the 9-yard line, worst field position they've had all day. And then, ironically, that's the time Tennessee's offense started clicking and had their first touchdown drive. So, again, I mean, Tennessee, they ran for 75 yards on Tennessee. So it wasn't Alabama ran for 75 yards on Tennessee. It wasn't like it was some massive issue at the linebacker spot. But I also did feel like there was a drop off for sure without Keenan Peely. So I'm not sure it necessarily changed my perspective on it a ton.
You can understand a drop off, but I'm saying like if you lose Jeremy Banks in 2022 for the full year.
Yeah, sure.
That's more of what I'm saying is that would have torpedoed Tennessee's special 2022 season. If you lose Banks, against Florida for the year, like if you lose him after the Florida game or something in 2022, what does that season look like? I don't know. You saw South Carolina with no Jeremy Banks and what that looked like defensively. I don't know. I guess that's my broader point. Is like the depth. It just speaks to where Tennessee is on the depth side of things. Is that there is a drop off post Peely, and Peely was a really good player, but it's not going to sink this defense. This defense is still going to be really good post Peely.
No, I mean, I don't think we talked about it last week. I don't think any of us thought that it was going to sink them. So no, you're right. It is a major.
I guess I just heard
difference,
some
and
national folks talk about it where it's like, oh, I don't know, like it wasn't Peely, and I was like, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, but no, you're right. It speaks to the improved depth, and it speaks to just like the balanced nature of defense. I mean, obviously the defense line is the strength of the team. It's the strength of defense, but Tennessee has players playing really well right now at all three levels. To where if one aspect of the team or one aspect of the defense takes a dip, it's just not going to crater things.
Do you take full responsibility for Will Brooks having the best grade defensively this week? I feel like Ryan Schumpert does deserve full, like some kind of. Did you get anything? Did Will Brooks reach out of like, thank you so much, that was just what I needed coming into this game against my home state team on Saturday? Yeah, seeing Ryan's article pop up from so many Tennessee players this week was like, oh, Ryan Schumpert. This is a big week. The stock has never been higher on Rocky Top Insider's Ryan Schumpert. He picked the right guy to write about. Will he be?
Shout out Will Brooks. No, I mean, a look behind the curtain of the life of a sports writer, or at least a beat writer. You write these stories, and this is more the case in like basketball or baseball than it is. It's kind of sometimes can be hard to tell if a defensive player. But you write one of these stories and you publish it, and you're just like, please don't crater into some huge slump or start playing really badly right after I wrote this. And I've had that happen before, and it is a bad feeling. And certainly no more polar opposite than just how well Will Brooks played in this game. And I mean, literally from the very first snap of the game, tackle for loss by Will Brooks in the run. to the last defensive snap, which was obviously the game-sealing interception. He was just really good. Saved a touchdown on the quarterback sneak to Jalen Milroe, bounced out with the true definition of a shoestring tackle. I mean,
Yeah.
It looked, I mean, just watching the way it was unfolding up in the press box, it was like, oh, it's a touchdown, and then just barely gets a hold of him. So he was fantastic. And I will say one, to kind of what you're joking about, Todd Evans, who I talked to for story, was his defensive backs coach in high school. He is a big Alabama fan. Texted after the game, just talking about how happy he was for Will, and amidst his pain as an Alabama fan, very, very happy for his former player. And you saw that too with the way Arian Carter in the post-game press conference, just like unprompted, started talking about Will Brooks and what a good leader and teammate he is. Few guys to be happier for than to walk on who makes the play against his home state team to seal the win.
I mean, he's made a lot of people eat a lot of crow this season. Will Brooks has been good. Not even just like Will Brooks has been solid. Will Brooks has been a very good safety. Like, you look week over week and how he's graded out from Football Focus and just what we've seen. Obviously, at the pick six against NC State, but he's been solid at the safety spot for Tennessee all season long. Like, obviously, Boo has shined and really taken and run with that star spot, but I mean, it's really been more of like curious of like how they're going to rotate with Andre Turrentine on the other spot, less so Will Brooks. I think Will Brooks has been sturdier to this point, and Will Brooks, I mean, 8 tackles tied with Jermod McCoy for a team high in this game. You mentioned the shoestring tackle that Vol fans hopefully don't forget about that one, but I mean, him sliding in front, I don't even remember which Alabama receiver it was. Was it Ryan Williams? Was it Ryan
I think
Williams?
It was Jeremy Bernard.
Bernard, that's right, it was Bernard. And for the game-sealing interception. But I mean, Will Brooks was all over the place and was just really good. What was your favorite part about writing that story on Will?
I think the most interesting thing that I didn't know about was just like he was really a bigger lacrosse recruit coming out of high school than he was. So that aspect of it was really interesting, and just kind of like they were a little naive, I guess, to how the recruiting process worked. And like weren't going to camps and stuff in the summer because he was just going and playing in lacrosse tournaments basically until, just some of it going into his senior year. I thought the football aspect of it, of talking to his high school defensive backs coach and high school head coach was interesting too, in their perspective on why he wasn't recruited more, but just like what makes him a good player. And I thought the one line that stood out and just stands out to how he's played this year is that the defensive backs coach said he just doesn't take any false steps. And that just feels like so accurate about him. Like, he's obviously not an elite athlete. Doesn't make a bunch of, even though he's made a handful of big plays, he doesn't make a bunch of just like crazy plays. He doesn't make the play that Jacoby Thomas made on the Jalen Milroe designed run where he just shoots in there and you're like, wow, what a play. But it just feels like he's always in the right spot. He knows what he needs to do. He's good at deciphering what's going on out there. And if he does give up a completion or if something does happen in front of him, he's always right there to make a tackle. He's just a very, very steady player. And you just know what you're going to get from him, not only game in and game out, like you referenced with the PFF grades. He's been extremely consistent, but it really feels that way, kind of play in, play out.
I like it. Do you feel like Nico figured it out in those 3 key drives in the second half, Ryan Schumpert? And the 3 drives I'm talking about, he obviously has the 27-yard run to put Tennessee inside the Alabama 10. That was huge for Nico with his legs. He hits Dante Thornton on the next drive on the rollout to the right with his best throw as a Tennessee Vol, 55-yarder. It didn't look like it was 55 yards. He made that look very easy. Folks, That's a really hard throw. That 55-yard bomb to Dante down the right-hand side to also put Tennessee in the red zone again, where they would later score with Dylan Sampson. And then the third one with Chris Brazzell in the slot, and it was just a beautiful fade in the back of the end zone and just another great ball. But those were all 3 back-to-back for Nico. Do you think he pieced some stuff together in the second half and he figured it out, some stuff with this Tennessee offense?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely pieced some stuff together. I'm not as willing to say it's like, all right, that was just a click moment and it's going to be all good from here on out. Like, I don't know. The thing that I would say, like, I think he has some sort of yips right now with just like the wide open throws, because both those throws were tested well, and he threw 2 deep balls that didn't get connected in the second half that were really good. The ball to Squirrel White, which I believe was on the first drive, which was not super tight coverage, but relatively tight coverage, and the deep ball to Brazzell I think I can't remember what drive that was, but in the second half down the exact, I guess it was the fourth quarter, because it was going back towards the north end zone on the Alabama sideline. Another great ball that could have been caught. But in the same time, like the easiest throw he missed was the ball to Brew McCoy down the seam, and I guess early in the fourth quarter too, where it's just like that's just a throw you have to make. It's very open. So I definitely think that second half was the best we've seen him play in any sort of meaningful football. And the fact that some of the stuff he did with his legs and just like ran with some real authority, I guess is the way that I describe it, some real toughness. Like he played really well in the second half and stepped up. Whether that means he has turned the corner, I'm still in wait and see mode on though.
I think he's turned the corner in some ways. Like, I think more than anything, it doesn't mean he's going to be elite Hendon Hooker 2022 the rest of the way, but I do think he needed to see some stuff go in. And he saw like the back, like especially the Brazzell touchdown throw. I mean, that was his first wide receiver touchdown in SEC play. Like Dante Thornton's 3 touchdowns were all
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma wasn't a receiver.
Yeah, it was Dante Thornton.
Was it Thornton? Did Thornton have one?
Yeah, he had the 70-yard touchdown.
Oh, I forgot he got in. I forgot Dante got in. Okay, I remember I forgot he actually scored on that. Yes, that's right. So second.
That was the only touchdown pass he's had in SEC play, and that was in the first quarter of the first SEC game.
Yeah, that's right. And since then he hasn't had anything, and to see that just work a little bit, I think for some of these guys, especially the younger guys, they just need to see some of this stuff go right. And part of me is because that first half was so tough, and it was pretty brutal in the first half. And I already kind of outlined with the 2 interceptions, the fumble, like both for opening drives has been great. The opening script the last 2 weeks for Heupel and company have been great. Like they've marched right down the field on their first possession, and they both ended in fumbles. First time was Nico last week, and this week it was Samp. But I don't know. I think to me, what you're going to see now more, if I had to bet on how this goes for the second half of the season for Nico, I just think you're going to see more up and down. It's been rough for the last 3 weeks, but now I think you're going to see more just kind of young player who's flashing up and down. And you're going to kind of have to ride the wave with a redshirt freshman who's still figuring it out. But I think now, to me, you're going to see some of those highs, some of those connects that Tennessee's been close on of late. I think you're going to have a couple of those again now. My gut is that's what you're going to see. So I think Nico and company are going to connect on more of those each week, but I still think there's going to be a learning curve. I still think there are going to be misses. I still think they're going to be, it's not going to be clean through 4 quarters for the rest of the season. That's my gut is I think you're going to just see more of like, hey, here's an awesome Nico third quarter where you're like, okay, that could be a Heisman guy next year. And then you're going to see somewhere it's like, okay, that didn't click, and you got to clean that up in the next game. You know what I mean? Like I just feel like that's more realistic than Nico pieced it all together and it's smooth sailing from here on out.
No, I completely agree with that. I think that's probably the most likely outcome. And it would just be natural for a young quarterback's development. I do, and the thing I'll say, and give some credit to the offensive line, they weren't great in this game, but they were a lot better than they were the last 2 weeks. And there were more clean pockets to throw. And I think at times when the pocket was collapsing, he did have better feel. And you talk about the long run on the first touchdown drive. Now, so the play he got hurt on in the first half would be one kind of to the opposite of that. And I was close to being a very, could have been a very bad play. He threw the ball backwards and even gained 15 yards on it because Dylan Sampson was the only one over there. And then obviously he was ruled down, but like those are the type of plays that can go very, very badly. So I agree. I think you're going to see more flashes, and I think you continue to see Tennessee put him in more positions that he's comfortable. I mean, he's just clearly more comfortable out of the pocket and throwing on the run. And you've talked about it. That's something Heupel's offense never is. It's very robotic of what they ask their quarterbacks to do. But you're seeing them, continue to put more and more of that stuff in. And I wonder, especially as the season starts to wane a little bit more, if we see more and more designed runs. I ran it more in this Alabama game. Like, I just think that opens up an element of the offense that they need to have. And obviously there's a big risk with the injury there and Tennessee's backup quarterback situation. But as you have less and less games on the schedule, and the playoff becomes in more clearer picture, I wonder if you see them be a little bit more aggressive in that aspect.
I think it's possible. Brazzell, we mentioned, he scored his touchdown out of the slot. And they've rotated a lot. We saw a lot of different combinations on Saturday against Alabama. The one key is Dante Thornton's got to get right. Like, in terms of the next 2 weeks, I am flying Dante to Los Angeles to hang out with LeBron for the next 2 weeks. It's like, LeBron, whatever you got to do, whatever we're doing to get you right, we need Dante Thornton Jr. Getting like the best of the best to get 100% so that he can play 60 plus snaps a game the rest of the way, because Dante's just your best receiver. Like, it's not even close, really. He had another big play, obviously, in this game. He's averaging over 30 yards a reception this season, Ryan Schumpert. I wonder, because Brazzell has not gotten really, I think he's at like 6 snaps out of the slot, and Squirrel got really banged up in this one. He's had some drop problems and just being able to stay healthy this season. Like, you've seen a lot of Chaz, less in this game, I think, in terms of the slot. They've obviously used the tight ends in the slot a lot with that rotation with Davis, Kitzelman, and Stays. But I wonder, Brewer McCoy had a good game on Saturday. What if that's the opener you try out against Kentucky, is you move Brazzell inside, Dante outside, and Brew outside? What if that's, because I think those are your 3 clear best receivers right now. And what if you just see what that looks like for an extended look for a couple weeks? That's just something I was thinking about today. I don't know if you've had that thought too.
No, I haven't. I mean, it's an interesting one. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe we see it some. I don't think it's a bad idea by any means. I'm a little skeptical of it, and I'm not really sure exactly how, if Brazzell's skill set is necessarily someone designed to play in the slot. Not to say he couldn't, but yeah, maybe. The one that just remains fascinating to me is like when Mike Matthews played early in the season, it was all at slot, and now he's like only ever in outside. Like, I don't really know what they're doing with him, to be honest.
How many
like,
snaps
to me,
he barely played Saturday night. He barely played.
Yeah, just a couple snaps. And to your point, there was a couple times they went 12 personnel and split Ethan Davis out wide, like as a receiver. I don't know how much that was evident during the broadcast. Obviously, that's something you can see a little bit better in the stadium. But I thought that was a really interesting look, and they threw it to him, I believe, one side of that, and I think his one catch, or I guess 2 catches, he had a screen pass too, but his one catch down the
same drive, I think.
Same drive as what?
Wasn't Davis hit those 2 plays? Weren't they on the same drive? The screen and his catch, or are those different?
No,
drives?
The screen was the one they ran on. When they went 3 and out on the last drive. Okay. They ran the same play they ran against Florida the week before, that tunnel screen. Okay. Maybe he had another catch on that drive too. Let's see. No, I
thought Davis had. I feel like I wrote down he had 2 catches on one drive, but maybe he didn't. They were throwing it to him. I don't know, but Davis is another one where I don't really understand why he's not more involved at some part of it. Like, I understand the blocking part of it is maybe not where you want it to be, but he's gonna, I don't know. I just feel like he is a Swiss Army knife in a lot of offenses, and it just feels like, for whatever reason, it's not fitting in right this season. And I just feel like it should, especially with so much uncertainty out wide, and you're just trying to find consistent playmakers for Nico. Like, I just feel like he's someone who would be a natural safety net for Nico this season. I'm just kind of surprised that Davis has not been more of a factor.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Especially, I mean, he had a couple of games where he was just kind of non-existent. Was that who they tried to throw it to on the tight end slip when they got the DPI on the first touchdown drive?
That I think that's right.
It might have been Stays, because Stays I know had 2 good blocks on that drive.
Yeah,
on 2 runs, so maybe it was Stays.
I have to go back and look.
Yeah, I'm not positive, but no, I mean, I'm with you. And I had Kitzelman as one of my guys trending down. Like, I don't know, it feels like he's been trending down since NC State, but I thought he played a bad game. Dylan Sampson's first fumble, if he's out there blocking, it might be a touchdown instead of a fumble. Yeah. He lines up, on the line when he's supposed to be off the line. It takes, I think that was a Thornton catch that was, 12 yards and a first down off the board, loss of down at 2nd and 15, instead of being 1st and 10 at what would have been the 30-yard line, essentially.
Thornton's lost a bunch of yards due to penalties. Yeah. Like, he's had at least 3 off the top of my head that were big plays that have been wiped due to penalties.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm with you. I mean, I get some of it with. I think what it's been recently, or at least this week, was more understandable. So I'm trying to see 20 snaps. Like, I think I get that. I would still like to see it be a little bit more, but I get that. But when it's like he's not playing at all, and you have Miles Kitselman in and clear passing downs, like clear passing drives, even because I know they're not going to sub on clear passing downs. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, this makes no sense.
I tend to agree. What do you think was the most under talked about moment from the game? Now you've seen all the reactions and talking to folks. What do you think has kind of been the most overlooked aspect of the game on Saturday?
That's a good question. I think maybe the Will Brooks tackle that we talked about on the Jalen Milroe shoestring play. Not to be okay, I'll go with the good, and then I'll be the negative Nancy. The defense, the final 4 drives. I mean, it was it's completely locked down. Didn't give up a first down. Like I think people are talking about that some, defense as a whole, but just like how kind of crazy that was. And at that point, Alabama's offense had been pretty good in the second half. Like first drive, they were pinned deep. They ran the ball to midfield, and we talked about the play to Turrentine tackle. They ended up punting. Next drive, drove down deep into Tennessee territory, kicked field goal. Then next drive, touchdown. Like first 3 drives, they moved the ball well, and they had 10 points. And then for them not to get another first down the rest of the game felt pretty crazy. And then even like at the end, Alabama gets the ball back. I didn't think they were going to score necessarily, but I was 100% expecting Alabama to drive the ball to the 30 or 40-yard line and have a couple throws at the end zone, and it'd just be like really agonizing for Tennessee to put the finishing touches, and then for it just to be boom, first play. Now I will say the negative aspect, and you won't see
can I say something to what you just said about that? Where I didn't. Yeah. I, in the moment, did not like that Heupel was playing it safe and not going for the first down and running it like you just need one. Just ice it, man. Like I would have tried to ice. I understand you're kind of nervous about putting Nico in a spot maybe to turn it over again or something like that. But I don't know. You just need one first down. You just need one. Find Dante Thornton. Find Brew. Like throw a screen to the left. Just do something like side to side to see like a better chance of getting the first down because Max had missed 2 field goals in the game. Like I understand they were both 50+ yarders, but I don't know. Those kind of things can come back to bite you. Where I don't know. In the group chat with the family group chat, I was like, oh, this just screams overtime to me. Like playing it safe here and just kicking the field goal, and Bama's going to march right down the field, and this is going to be kind of to your point, like painstaking. This is going to because that's what happened against Florida. Florida 3rd and 17 scores a touchdown, and you're going to overtime because that late game. The backup quarterback with Arkansas 2 weeks prior, he does the same thing. They go march down the field in that final drive. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting that they played it safe there, considering what we've seen the last couple weeks. And it didn't. Will Brooks, your guy, stepped in to make sure that did not happen a third time. But that was running through my mind when that was going on.
Yeah, I didn't really know how. I was kind of on the fence about that. Because on one sense, I'm like, all right, at least like run some sort of rollout with Nico, and you can say, all right, just get down. But then it's like, well, your kicker hasn't been great. It's already, I think, would have been a 43-yarder if they didn't get any yards on third down. It's like, well, if he falls down for a 4-yard loss, then all of a sudden you're kicking a 47-yarder.
Yeah.
And the one thing I will say is different in the last 2 games is the field position. You make the kick, they're going to get the ball at their own 25-yard line as to where Florida got the ball at the plus 45 maybe, around, and then it was, around midfield for Arkansas too. So I saw both sides of that for sure. I would almost have wanted them to be more aggressive the drive before. They got it back with the lead, and they went run, screen pass. And I don't necessarily hate the screen pass on third down. And it was they got out there and blocked the safety. It would have been a big gain, and it looks really good. But at that point in the game, the offense was playing well. You were throwing the ball pretty well. And look, I get this is a fine line. I criticized them for running 40 seconds off the clock with the lead at Arkansas a few weeks ago. So you pass the ball twice, and then I'm sitting here maybe killing you if you lose the game. So I get that it's a tough line to draw, but I almost would have been a little bit more aggressive with how the offense was playing on that drive. The point I was going to say, and you won't see me shedding a tear for Alabama, but Tennessee got some nice calls down the stretch that game. James Pierce was offsides on the third down sack. I thought it should have been offsetting penalties on the little scrum with Boo Carter, and was it Key for Alabama?
No. Boo is elite, man. Boo is elite trash talker.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a completely game changing call to go from 4th and 7 to 4th and 22.
Yeah.
And look, don't get me wrong, there were some calls Tennessee fans could complain about in this game too.
You got to keep a level head, man. Boo Carter, he's like it. He knows.
Boo Carter,
he drew it.
The
It's great
for Tennessee was that Boo Carter missed when he tried to push the Alabama player in the face.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That was the blessing.
Don't know what you're talking about, Ryan Schumpert. Do not know what you're talking about. No, but it's so funny. Like you look at so many just one plays change the game so much.
Yeah.
And there's just so many to go back through in my rewatch on Sunday, and I'm sure you saw the same. There was just a lot of stuff that could have.
Heck, yeah. I'll throw another one, probably better than any ones I said. Jackson Ross with the punt. I mean, Tennessee has the brutal holding call go against them on Brazzell on 3rd down. You're still losing at this point in the game. And this was the first of the 4 drives that Tennessee held Alabama 3 and out. So I already went over how Alabama's offense was playing well. Tennessee punts the ball back to him, pins him at the 4-yard line. And, I think that put Alabama's offense in a precarious spot. I mean, they almost got safetied. I would say that's a moment nobody in the game will probably talk about, but just a really, really big play because it really felt like you're talking about should Tennessee punt it or go for it. And it was really as simple as if they pin them deep, you should punt it. If you punt a touchback and they get the ball at 20, you're going to feel really dumb for doing this.
Yeah.
And special teams went out there and delivered.
This is a nitpicking thing, but I don't like that we're still at 26 carries for Dylan Sampson. He's now past Jalen Wright for carries this season as opposed to where Jalen Wright was for the entirety of 2023. And it felt like Jalen Wright was a workhorse bell cow back for Tennessee. We've talked about in this program. Like he still had a little bit more of a rotation with Jabari and Dylan last year. But Bishop was averaging, 7 yards a carry in this game in his spots. I think Deshaun Bishop ran well. Now that Tennessee has beaten Alabama, they're in really good playoff. They are in a really good spot to make the college football playoff this fall. You have to be thinking big picture now. Like this is something that to wrap up here tonight, Ryan, is like you have to be thinking college football playoff from here on out. And like Dylan Sampson's been awesome. Cam Seldon over the next 2 weeks, you got to use the idle week to get everyone ready, or it's Peyton Lewis or it's somebody. But you have to work on getting ready for the 3-back system to reappear down the stretch for Tennessee because, I understand if things get tight in the second half, you got to run your guy because Dylan Sampson's been the MVP of this offense. But the carries have to stop. Like, you have to start limiting these carries down to 15 to 20 range for Dylan Sampson over the next couple of weeks because Tennessee's playing for playing the big game now, and you just don't want Dylan Sampson to break down at the end of the season when you need him most because he's been your most important best player. I don't know. The 26 carries, like Dylan Sampson's awesome, but Cam Seldon 1 carry, Deshaun Bishop, he had 5 carries for 36, 7.2 yards per attempt. It's just you got to rotate more. We got to get back into the rotation, a healthy rotation there to conserve Dylan Sampson down the stretch here, Ryan Schumpert. That's the next 2 weeks have to be about that to me.
I felt like the is it Caliendo, dude? That's Frank Caliendo. His Mel Kiper. That's what I wanted to stop and just go. Todd. I think I agree generally with where you get to. Like Deshaun Bishop does need to get more carries. But I disagree with the logic. Tennessee's not good enough to just say, "Oh, you're going to beat everybody besides Georgia. Don't worry about it." Like they're not good. They're not good enough to do that. They're not good enough to roll out of bed and think you're just going to win these games without using your best offensive player a lot.
I'm not saying you put him like you don't use him. I'm saying you cut the carries down like 6 to 7 a game. Like that's what I'm saying. Cut the carries by 6. You'll be fine. Like if Deshaun Bishop gets 6 more carries, I don't think that changes the games drastically, especially in the first half. Second half Sam. Like, do it majority in the first half. I don't care, but I'm not asking like you drop him down to 10 carries. I'm saying you go from 26 to 18. That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
and I don't disagree with the premise of that. And some get like UTEP don't let him run the ball more than first drive of the game. Play him the first drive of the game, however many carries he has, good. Don't play him again after that. If you're handling Mississippi State and Kentucky, don't run him a ton in the second half. I look at it more from that standpoint. And Naturally, yes, try to cut down a little bit because I think they should have more confidence. Or I think they probably do have confidence in Deshaun Bishop. But it's just exactly what I've said for years about the receiver rotation of if the receivers are really good, if the starters are really good, you're not going to take those guys out when the games are tight. And I know it's a different situation, but Dylan Sampson is the best player on a struggling Tennessee offense. While games are close, while games are competitive, I just don't think we can sit here and just be like, oh, they're fine. They're going to go to the playoff. Like,
I'm not saying they're in position now. You have to plan. Like, it's just we're in an era you have to plan for it.
To get to 10 and 2, and then you'll worry about it. To me,
so where would you guess Dylan Sampson is nationally? Every single running back nationally. Where do you think he is right now in total carries?
In terms of carries, I'll say 5th.
3rd. There's only 2 backs with more carries through 7 games of the season than Dylan Sampson. He's 3rd nationally. He has 144 carries. Only Caleb Scatabo of Arizona State and Amarian Hampton at North Carolina have more carries than Dylan Sampson to this point. Ashton GT is the Heisman favorite. He has 126. Yeah. He's up 18 carries, like a full game almost, on a guy who is the entirety of the Boise State offense. All I'm saying is I'm looking around here and I'm like, I don't see a lot of Texas guys. I mean, Jordan James right there, he has 23 carries more than Jordan James at Oregon, who's been really good for them. I'm looking for another one. Let's see. Running back for any big time program here a little bit. I'm looking for the contenders and Caleb Johnson.
He's not in the spot though. Again, like I agree with what you're saying.
I get what you're saying, but I am just very concerned at this kind of workload. If you're planning on a 13 to 15 game season, Dylan Sampson's he's doing a lot every week. He's doing a lot, and it's awesome while he's doing it, but it's just a lot of wear and tear on Dylan Sampson. And a lot of it's after contact because the offensive line has not been what it was in years past. So Dylan Sampson's getting hit a whole lot more early on than Jalen Wright and company were the last couple of years because that offensive line was opening up a lot more holes than what Dylan Sampson's had to fight through. And it's a testament to because Dylan Sampson's been elite all season long for Tennessee. But man, I don't know if it doesn't seem like a big talking point here in Tennessee media nationally of like, I'm the weekly Dylan Sampson counter here where I'm just like, hey. Yeah, this is just every week in the.
Don't be skeptical. Tennessee plays 15 football games this year. I'll say that too.
Wow. No faith, Ryan.
You can call me that. Yeah, I mean you can call me that if you want. I will say, like, how many times did he carry? Do you have his game log up in front of you?
I can find it here in a second. Let's see here. Game log. Yeah, I got it.
Yes, 26. You're right. He shouldn't carry the ball.
26 this week, 27 last week, 22 against Arkansas, 24 against Oklahoma. So he's averaging about 25 to 26 every conference game.
I will concede you for the most part. Keep it south of 25. And when you have the opportunities to, when you're up in these games,
yes,
do not push it. That aspect I agree with. That aspect I really agree with. Like, pull it back if you're up by 2 touchdowns in the second half against Mississippi State, or you're up 2 touchdowns in the second half against Kentucky. But I don't know. Like, I think you had that in mind, but I don't think I'm going into these games like, all right, let's get Dylan Sampson less work.
I mean, it sounds antithetical to winning football. I am saying. I don't think the drop off. I mean, Deshaun Bishop is getting better. There was all this offseason hype about Cam Seldon. Like, he's got to start getting some work. He's got to start getting some carries. Like, you just got to see what you have there. Like, he's already burned the red shirt, so you might as well just continue to see what you've got there. I don't know. Or Peyton Lewis. Like, I don't care, but the carries have to be, to me, down the stretch. They got to open up a little bit more.
I will say
I haven't gotten a text from the staff about it, and whether or not, if they want to plan, I can help with the game plan here and how you want to distribute that. I'm more than happy to break this up a little bit. I would go like, what? Let's do 20 Samp, 8 Bishop. Let's do 20 Samp, 8 Bishop, 6 Cam Seldon.
Yeah, I mean, I think some games will be running more than that. I will say, I mean, he had 2 drives not on the field in the first half. And it was just a high possession first half. Like, I don't think that's bad, 2 drives. But I think one of those drives, was I think one of those drives was an early punt of the first half, was the Cam Seldon drive. and then whatever it ended up being, like 8 possessions in the first half. It was a very inordinately high possession game in the first half. So I don't know. I generally agree. Though I'm not quite in the same boat of just like, all right, you can assume you're going to win a lot of these games. I think it's a very, very week to week league this season.
That's fair. Ryan Schumpert, what can the good folks check out from you over at Rocky Top Insider this week?
Yeah, so we'll have plenty of Tennessee football stuff even during the open date, but a little bit of baseball and basketball, adjusting focus there. Tennessee baseball scrimmage notes from Monday. On Tuesday, Tony Vitello meets with the media. So we'll have coverage from that and then another scrimmage. And in this weekend, no football, but plenty of Tennessee sports action going on. I'll be in Nashville on Friday night as the baseball team faces Western Kentucky in a scrimmage. And then be back in Knoxville for Sunday afternoon when Tennessee Hoops takes on Indiana in an exhibition game. So that should be a fun exhibition game, a good challenge. Excited to see what they look like. And I mean, probably from when you're listening to this, tip off for the season opener in 13 days. So basketball season's barreling down on us very quickly.
It'll be fun. I'm excited for it. Ryan Schumpert, always a pleasure. And I'll talk to you next week.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.